How the wrong people taught me leadership. Out of the blue, our data scientist team lead left us, leaving our group without their leader, without their manager. Meanwhile, the organization started to look for a way to fill that void, that gap in leadership that we had. Meanwhile, on the team, we felt lost. We felt like sheep without their shepherd, without direction. And with this, I saw my opportunity. I said, Matityahu, this is your chance to become a leader, to become a manager, and to lead that team. And luckily enough, the organization granted me that opportunity, and I was given the role. And I remember asking myself, how could I do this? You see, I don't have any leadership prior experience. How could I lead a team of amazing data scientists? So I said the only way I could do it is learning by example. And looking back and going through all the previous managers and leaders and mentors that I had. Because you see, being fortunate working in multiple places already, I've experienced different styles and cultures and organizations and politics. And I had my fair share of ways to emulate. And I did that. I looked upon it, reflected, and really appreciated the impact that it gave me, that positive impact. But looking back also, there were certain experiences that stood out in my memory from examples in leadership that weren't so pleasant, I would say. I just remember all those many times I said to myself after my boss did something, oh, I hope to never be like this when I'm a manager one day. And going through my history, I recollected those memories, those negative stories, I would call it, and I came here to share them with you and to show you how those negative experiences impacted me no less than the positive ones. Hi, I'm Matityahu Sarafzadeh, and come and see how I learned leadership from the wrong people. But first, a little bit about myself. Born and raised in Houston, Texas. I made an aliyah in 2010. I've been working in AI, data science for the past 7 years. I've joined Saluto in 2019. 6 months later, I became the data scientist team lead. If anyone hasn't heard about Saluto, you're not checking the news. Yep, me and another 119 talented teammates are all looking for work. So let's be in touch. They're all right here. Thank you for coming. So by a show of hands, who here is a boss? I thought this was a leadership conference. So I hate to break it to you. People don't really like us. You see, in a survey conducted by the Huffington Post, 75% of survey respondees reported that their manager was the most stressful part of their job. In another parallel study conducted by Randstad US, it was reported that 58% of workers said they would wish to have a better boss than a higher pay. And I can say that we've all had bosses, but not everyone necessarily has actually been merited to work for a leader. Because when you think about it, my superiors were being more of like a boss-like nature than like a leader nature. And if you think about it, a boss and a leader is not really an absolute thing that a person is. They're really on two opposite sides of the spectrum, and a person decides where they want to be placed. Sometimes, based on a person's decisions, his everyday interactions, every single day, they inherently choose where they want to fall on that spectrum. Because in truth, we really all strive to be better leaders. Just unfortunately, some people, maybe those more often, than not, tend to make mistakes. And I've come here to share them with you. Those 6 management sins, as I call it, that inspired me to become a better leader. Story number 1, the vacation days. I once worked for a company where my family was going to a 3-day vacation, and I wanted to join them. So I asked my boss for 3 days of vacation. And he quickly shrugged and answered, I can't give you all 3 days. Take 2 of those 3 days. You choose which ones. And I just felt so like, what? So non-transparent? Why? And I have to make it clear with you guys. I've been very involved with the company. I knew exactly of everything going on a political level, on a financial level. I knew of the deadlines. I knew of the critical server issues. I knew of all the POCs that had to get done. There was no apparent reason for him to say no. And he wasn't transparent. And I remember telling myself, when I'm in his shoes one day, I hope to be a little bit more transparent and not just say no. Growing up, many years later, I learned that, sometimes a person could be asked a certain thing, and he might feel that, that thing might not be so important. And also sometimes people habitually, because maybe they're just too tired or they have no energy, just to quickly say no and to cut corners. But I remember how I felt when I was in those shoes, how transparency is so important. And when someone asks me something, I try to do everything I can to become transparent. When someone on our team asked to do a certain project, a real dream project for the company to drive thousands, if not millions of dollars to the company. Unfortunately, it wasn't a product-approved project, and that was the reason that it couldn't continue. And I did everything I can to explain to our teammate why this wasn't an approved project, and to be as transparent as possible and respect that person's feelings. Because sometimes a person could be told no, and they'll accept it. Maybe because they understand it. But other times they'll be told no, and they have no idea why, and they won't even ask. And it's important to be transparent, and not just to say no, but to get into their feelings. Because we were all in those shoes one day. Story number 2. I'm laughing now, but I was not laughing then. I was asked by a former boss to send him a detailed email every day of everything I did. And being, the person I am, I did it every single day. I was coherent. I was clear, concise, but I was very thorough. And I went through everything and I emailed them what I did. I thought this was a way to keep track of my progress. Over time, I got the feeling that this wasn't actually a tool to keep track of my progress. It was actually a form of control. Here's another story in micromanagement. I had another boss. This picture is true. That he would roam the offices and just awkwardly creep up behind people. Many times I was that bait and be like, why is that over there on that screen? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? Matityahu, what are you up to? Even times where if I would walk around the office because I needed a break, right? Magia, sometimes. And I would bump into him. And the question always went to, hey, what are you up to? Why are you getting up? When's your deadline again? Do you know when your deadline is? And I'll make it clear, I got the work done. And I got the agendas done. This micromanagement really felt awkward, really felt uncomfortable, like I'm losing a sense of trust. I would like to say I don't micromanage at all. But looking back who I am today, I like to say maybe I micromanage a little. Not too much, maybe a little. And I've learned it the hard way. For example, someone on our team used to be very, I would say, tends to ask a lot of questions. And I have some experience in AI, so I generally, try to give an answer. It saves time, we're getting our deadlines moving. But I've learned that hinders self-growth. And really, me giving the answer was an element of micromanagement, because it was my form of controlling how the product will look, because many times those decisions were made by me. And a person's self-growth is something very, very important. And I've learned that if my team doesn't grow, I'm not going to grow either. My products are not going to grow. And I've learned that instead of giving the answer, I gave directions. And that person had to take that advice and go there themselves. And sometimes they couldn't. So I literally held their hand and I helped them get there. And I learned that that's how they can truly grow. Because if they make those decisions and they'll have the ownership, they can really transform to a more organized person, I would say, that can make decisions on their own, and I trust it. Story number 4, the POC. Okay. I was once very involved with a certain company, and we had a major POC effort. And it wasn't such a big company, so I had a lot of work on my hands, and I was happy to do it. And after we, thank God, successfully built the POC and it had a high accuracy, It was time to present to the stakeholders. My boss took the stand, presented everything, and everything I heard was me. I did this, I did that. And like, what? I felt so demotivated, so dumbfounded, like, why would I even try? Some recognition is at least appreciated. And it just like, what a dumb move on his part. On our team, we successfully launched a POC that I led. But I had a major element in the building as well. I built a major part of the model. When it came time to present it to the team and to the stakeholders, I didn't take any credit in it. I didn't even say a word that had a part in it. Because the truth is, it belonged to my team. They really did the hard work. They made those hard decisions, and they deserve the credit. And I really try to celebrate those victories. When someone has an achievement, big or even small, I really learned from this that it's important to recognize them. And I also learned that sometimes when you give recognition and you really go there and you're trying to give credit where credit is due, it's very easy to forget somebody. And a person has to do their homework before they celebrate the successes. Just a live example. This was not planned until yesterday. I have a team here. I've worked with every single person here. Talented people. For me to say what every single person does, I'm already going to forget exactly what I worked with them. So I'm going to give credit where credit is due, and you have to give it right. These are talented people at Soluto, and they really helped me get to where I have to get to by advice, by their own personal time, by the emotional support, even by coming here after, if you read the news yesterday. And that's giving credit where credit is due to people that actually deserve it. We're almost done, guys. The paternity leave. There was once a company I worked for that I had a dream AI project, and it was a win-win-win situation. You see, it was a win for me because it was going to advance me in my career. I was going to be at the next level. It's going to help the company because I'm going to help this company market this AI product. It's going to really take their product to a whole another AI level. And a third one for the customer because it's a data-oriented problem. I'm a huge data believer. Now, I pitched this to the company, and I tried really hard, and they just didn't buy it. It didn't align with their goals. Makes sense. Every business has their focus. So they kept, pushing it off. I'm like, can we start this? No, next month, in 2 months, next year, next quarter. Meanwhile, we had a baby girl, Mazal Tov. So I took 2 weeks of paternity leave. I thought 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, I got a phone call from my previous boss, the company that I worked for. And he's like, Matityahu, I know you really want to work on that AI project. There's a certain task I want you to do. He knew I was on vacation because he called me on my cell phone, not on Slack. And I guarantee you, if you do this task while you're on vacation, I will fix it up that when you come back, you can start working on the AI project. Like suddenly, it was so important to the company. And when I look back today, I saw that that company gave me no room for personal development, for self-growth. And that really inspired me because I don't want to have anyone feel like to be in those shoes. I tried giving my team on a weekly basis, knowledge sharing, learning topics that were not relevant to our work, but would advance them in their professional way. Different types of models, different types of statistics, anything. And we were open about it. Any field, we just went into it and we started doing courses together. And I also learned that personal boundaries are so important. And I try so hard when a person asks for off, even as small as it is, to respect that and to not to message them, even if it's such a, just for a second. On our team, we had someone that had to go on vacation a day before the deadline, and some havoc happened, and our model did not do what it had to do, and we had to rerun it again the last day. And I didn't build the model. I just had a major part in other components of the embedding. And at the same time, I tried everything I can not to message that person, to respect those personal boundaries. It was going to be a small question. Instead, I jumped into the trenches. I ran through the code myself, figured out whatever I had to figure out, and I did it. Because I know that if I ask that person for one moment to a question, they'll be happy to ask, but not so happy because they're going to be displaced from their personal time for literally 1 second, and that person's going to hate their job for that time. just like I hated my boss during that phone call. Last story, my career path. Here's a story that wished happened, but didn't really happen, or did. See, no one has ever talked to me in my past about my career path, about my future, at least properly. On the contrary, it was used against me. You see, a former boss tried once convincing me to sign a commitment contract where that would retain me at the company. If I would leave the company in the interim of a couple of years, I would owe them tens of thousands of shekels. But if I would stay, I would be granted fair shares and a high position in the company. And I felt cheated and taken advantage of because I was very coherent with the company. They knew that this is a place I was getting great experience. I didn't want to leave. And they also knew that I wasn't in a financial position to leave. And I just felt chained. I said to myself, is this really happening to me? I can't do this. I don't even know where the company is going to be tomorrow. Because a boss always wants to be a boss. But a true leader is different. You see, a leader, much like a parent, wants their children, wants their teammates to do better, to excel them. They want their workers to grow, to improve their skills, and to inspire. And they want their teammates to go further and further. And I've been open with my teammates, helping them define their personal goals. I said, I want you to be in my seat in the next few years. And I'm honest with them. And I try everything I can to help them get to that journey. Great leaders help you understand your destination and enable your journey to get there. And that's exactly what I had looking back at my time at Saludo. Because my own manager, my leader, gave me exactly that. She knew I wanted this position. And she gave me everything I can and the tools I needed and the time that I needed to get this position. Because if you were to ask me, Matityahu, what is the greatest quality of leadership? That's what we all came here for, right? To learn. In my humble opinion, I will tell you the greatest characteristic of leadership is building that next line of leaders much better than who we are and continue that chain. So we're always going to have the next line of leaders going down. Thank you very much.